All right, good evening, football fans. I'm Marco, and this is the New Mexico Young American Football Top 3 Ranking Show. Excited to be here as we go into Week 6. Some great matchups and some interesting play coming ahead. And let's just get started. So the 7-year-old starts us off the Mite division. I don't know if you've ever been around as a coach, a parent, obviously a player. To get these guys to play together as a group is like herding cats. It is a difficult proposition at best. But I will tell you that there's 3 teams that are rising to the cream of the crop at the top of the heap. And we continue forward with today's rankings. So in the number 1 slot, Sue Cleveland and Coach Birch again continue to play extremely well as they go on and play Trisco last week and really just rolled through, had a great game, and business as usual, gobbling up opponent after opponent. Impressive team to watch. Weve in the number 2 slot, unchanged from last week. Coach Olivas with a slow start with the Weve Bears, 0-2, have rattled off 3 straight wins, including last weekend as they overcame a very tough West Mesa Mustang team and defeated them 18-12. And it really sets up nicely for this weekend as number 1 and number 2 clash, hook horns, if you will, for that number 1 slot. We'll find out how that shakes out next week. And of course, just sitting kind of quietly in the number 3 position, the number 1 team early in the year, Coach Gonzalez has his team playing well again. Had a little stumble a couple weeks ago against the Weve Bears, but it bounced back nicely as they played Berlin last week and rolled forward, hanging on to that number 3 slot. And really, you think about it, those 3 teams are the dominant teams in this Mite division, with West Mesa on the outside looking in. So we'll look forward to this weekend's matchup, Sue Cleveland and Weve for the number 1 slot. And that's your Mite ranking. All right, so moving forward with the 8-year-olds, the Weve The Vision. And we had a little shakeup last week as some of the teams met in some pretty intriguing matchups. In the number 1 slot, Volcano Vista continues to dominate. Coach Gonzalez with Sue Cleveland on the agenda last weekend and end up rolling on nice and easy, 28-6. And that Volcano Vista team is impressive. 5-0 this year, looking for 6-0 this weekend if they can pull it off. And just a team to be watchful for. Rio Grande, I warned you of this last week. This is a team you need to be careful of. Coach Zamora has this team playing at a high level. I warned you early when they stumbled around, fiddling around, trying to figure out who they were. At some point, they were going to figure it out. Defending Super Bowl champs, they're not going down lightly. And here they are, the number 2 slot, with an impressive victory last week over the Albuquerque High Bulldogs, who at the time were 4-0 and undefeated, and end up kind of getting into a kind of a roll game. 34-13 victory. And sometimes when you think about it, these games are won and lost a lot of times at this age in the mental aspect. And I just think at this point, the rematch of the Super Bowl, which we were hoping would be just a lights-out game, ended up being a little bit of a dud. But at the same time, you can't count out this Albuquerque High Bulldog team under Coach Martinez. Yeah, they lost 34-13. Yeah, the score doesn't look pretty. But I will tell you this, at 4-1, they are still a team to be reckoned with. You can guarantee that. And these are the top 3 really that have been playing at a high level all year. Coach Elgato for the Highland Hornets, I bet, has something to say about that. Yeah, Coach, I see you out there. I see you out there. And I know you're 4-1, but you're the new kid looking on the outside coming in. And I think for me to believe in you as a top 3 team, you're going to need to do a little more damage. Yeah, 4-1's great. I'll tell you what, though, you got Albuquerque High and Rio Grande on the agenda 2 of the last 3 weeks, and that is going to tell us the story of this Highland Hornet team, and I wish them the best. It's going to be a hell of a finale for them at the end of the year. But Volcano Vista, Rio Grande, and Albuquerque High right now, the class of the Weve division. These are your top 3 rankings. All right, football fans, we move forward to the rookies, and you think about the rookies in the North and the South divisions, and really a lot of the exceptional play is in that rookie North. When you're looking at the number 1 team in that area, you can't help but talk about Coach Sanchez and the Weve Bears. 3 years, 1 loss, 2 Super Bowl back-to-back victories, and rolling along this year at 5-0. Definitely a team to be reckoned with. Last week, a tight game against Sue Cleveland. A little bit of a surprise, 8-6 victory. But what you got to understand, it's a heck of a lot harder fighting off the challengers at the top of the heap than it is trying to climb the mountain and win a championship. A lot of times at that level, the number one team that Coach Sanchez has put together is everyone's Super Bowl, and so every single week they're going to have to claw and scratch their way to a victory if they plan on getting through this season undefeated. But an impressive team nonetheless. Coach Cornelius in the number 2 ranking in Volcano Vista Hawks with a convincing 42-7 victory over Valencia. They're not a team to be overlooked. They're not a team that you want to definitely not think about as you progress through the season. And I will tell you, that matchup this weekend of La Cueva and Volcano Vista is setting up to be one heck of a matchup. Number 1 seed on the line in the North Division. And then finally in the 3 seed, Coach Down Valley. I mean, you really have to say a lot about this team. 10-6 loss last week, 2 weeks ago to La Cueva. Really disappointing for that team. They've been in the Super Bowl against La Cueva, got trounced, came back in this game, played a tight one, ended up losing late. And you thought, well, this team will probably roll over a little bit, have a tough game against Atrisco. Couldn't be farther from the truth. Valley comes out well prepared. Coach Dow got his troops ready to rock and roll. And they come out and beat Atrisco 36-0 and really just put a stamp that, hey, this team is not going away. And those top 3, I tell you, are playing at a high level. I will say this. I know Coach Patterson with a 24-0 victory over Las Lunas. The 4-1 Del Norte Knights really probably feeling a little gypped here that they're not in that top 3 at 4-1. But just like Highland in the Pee Wee division, Coach Patterson, you're the new kid on the block, and you've got to prove a couple things for me to put you in there. You're going to get your chance in 2 weeks in week 7 when you play La Cueva, and I think that's where I'll figure out kind of what your team really about. I wish you good luck in that game. But for now, these are our top 3 in the rookie division. All right, so now we get to talk about the complicated freshmen. I'm a little frustrated with this division. We've got some clear-cut teams playing extremely well, high level, no doubt about it. And then we've just got a mess below these teams that just cannot figure out what they are. And it's driving me batty. Let's start talking about what I do know. And that is that Sioux Cleveland, absolutely, under Coach Dennison, is dominating this division. There's no doubt about it. Sioux Cleveland, number 1 ranked all year long. And just a defending Super Bowl champs. There's not a lot more you can say about this team. They are the team to beat this year, no question about it. Last weekend, a convincing 36-0 victory over La Cueva. I don't think anyone can debate that this is the top-level team in the freshman level. Coach Caesar with Volcano Vista, the defending Super Bowl champs, or the defending regional champs. What can you say? A slow start. Finally figured out a couple things, came on here, and now playing at a high level. 36-0 victory over Las Lunas in the number 2 ranking, and definitely a team you cannot overlook. They will be playing hard as we close out the year. And certainly, it's the 3 slot that's probably the most interesting to me. Game of the week last week for the Freshman South Division title on the line. 4-0. 4-3-1 hook and horn, or 3-1 and 3-1 hook and horn. Sioux Cleveland East under Coach Birch getting together with Coach Casaus and the Atrisco Jags in what was initially a pretty solid game. It got away from them. Coach Birch just absolutely dominating, smothering offense. The defense showed up, played really well, and they defeated the Jags 39-12 in the game of the week and really positioned themselves nicely. Yeah, they've defeated Volcano Vista. I get you. Your records are identical, but right now I think in the number 3 slot, you've still got a couple things that you need to do to convince me you're ready to rock and roll. Couple things that are sort of kind of irritating me freshman level, and here's one of them, and it's a good thing. Coach Cordova, the Valencia team, came in and upset the Albuquerque Bulldogs under Coach Belair and really threw me for a loop. I thought this would be a time for the Albuquerque Bulldogs to make their move. 3 times inside the 5-yard line, couldn't get in the end zone. Very frustrating afternoon for that Bulldog team. And then you've got these teams that just cannot figure out what they are or what they're not. Rio Grande, Coach Gallegos with a pretty good wins, an upset victory over Sandia last week in Volcano Vista East in a close game, another victory. Coach Casals again with the Trisco. Yeah, they were defeated handily by Sioux Cleveland East, but they're not going anywhere either. And then, of course, there's Sandia under Coach Maldonado, who we haven't even talked about for a couple of weeks, that were the number 3 ranked team a few weeks ago, and now they're just invisible. Well, guess what? Coach Maldonado and Coach Birch and that Sioux Cleveland East and Sandia teams, they hook horns this weekend. We're going to figure out a lot more about the freshman division as we close out this weekend. Can you do me a favor, freshman division? Can we figure out who the real top 3 ultimately are? For now, though, week 6, these are your top 3 in the freshman level. Welcome back. We have the sophomore level next in the top 3 ranking show. And this has pretty much been a consistent horse race the entire season. Number 1, La Cueva Bears under Coach Kimbrough. What more can you say? This team has been disappointed last year in the Super Bowl against Volcano Vista East. Get trounced. Come back this year. A very talented team. Game of the week 2, and they ended up defeating that Super Bowl champ, getting themselves into a 1 slot, and haven't looked back since last weekend. 29-0 victory over West Mesa East in convincing fashion. Volcano Vista East side. Coach Montgomery got his troops rocking 28-0 over Las Lunas East, and just kind of quietly going about their business. Did take a lick in week 2 against La Cueva and haven't looked back since. Rattled off 3 straight victories, sitting at 4-1, and definitely a team you don't want to forget about. And then finally, Coach Caldwell, Las Lunas, kind of on the outside looking in. 24-0 victory over Sioux Cleveland East last weekend. Just kind of going about their business, packing their suitcases, coming up from Lunas to Albuquerque, handling their business, doing their thing, the Tiger Show, having a little candy and meat for lunch, and not kind of getting a lot of conversation. Honestly, I think Coach Caldwell preferred it that way. I think he wants to come in as an underdog, and that's exactly what's happening right now. But outside of those 3 folks, that's what you got in the sophomore division. And as I stated last week, one of these 3 is going to be our Super Bowl champ as we close out. So again, no surprises in the top 3 ranking in the sophomore division. La Cueva 1, Volcano Vista East 2, and Las Lunas number 3. Your top 3 in the sophomore division. All right, moving on to the final 2 divisions. We're going to start off with the juniors, and we have just 3 absolutely lights out teams. These are fun to watch and talk about. I get the privilege of going Friday night under the lights, the C&M campus, fresh cut grass, under the evening sky, beautiful Albuquerque. You get to watch a couple of these teams hook up and see what we got. But I will tell you, these 3 teams undoubtedly are probably the 3 top teams, really pound for pound, in the city right now. Rio Rancho under Coach Manning. Rio Rancho. I tell you, that would haunt my dreams if I had that team in my agenda for the week. And of course, here they are. 33-0 victory over Rio Grande last week. Again, continuing to dominate. 1 touchdown scored against them all year. Best defense in the junior level. Arguably the best offense in the junior level. I don't see weakness to their game. But if there is one, Coach Plake is going to find it. Sioux Cleveland ranked number 2. 38-12 victory over Volcano Vista North last week. And from a point perspective, the top offense in the junior level, and arguably a great defense comparable to Rio Rancho. These 2 met last year in the Super Bowl. It was a pretty good game for 3 quarters, slipped away late. Rio Rancho took the victory, went on to win the regional tournament, and went on to the Nationals in Canton, Ohio, a team that knows how to win. Back-to-back Super Bowl champions looking for their 3rd straight title. Definitely will be an interesting and fun matchup Friday night. I look forward to it for our game of the week. 7 o'clock Friday at C&M Field. And then, of course, Volcano Vista sitting in the 3rd slot. Won the Super Bowl the first couple of years in their division. Coach Salas has them playing at an extremely high level. 36 victory over Valley last week. And I don't know. It's just one of those teams that you're a little afraid to talk about. You're a little afraid to throw in the conversation because you just don't know what they have and if they can hang with these two teams. But at the end of the day, this is a quality football team Coach Salas has. And I will tell you this, 2 of the last 3 weeks of the season, Coach Salas gets Manning and Blake, and we'll find out real quick which one of these 3 teams are going to kind of separate from the pack. But make no mistake, that's not the end of the road for any one of the 3, regardless of how this show ends up and what the ending looks like when the regular season finishes in 3 weeks. These 3 will be back at playoff time, ready to try again and see if one of them can come out and survive and win that coveted Super Bowl championship. But for now, Rio Rancho, Sioux Cleveland, Volcano Vista, your top 3 in the junior level. All right, we've come to the final division in our top 3 ranking show. Thanks for hanging around. The Varsity division, as you all know, this is a division near and dear to my heart. Final year of youth football, a lot of bittersweet feelings for parents and players and people around the game at that age. Going on to high school next year, different kind of journey, and then this one will end and you'll move on to a different kind of football. But I will tell you, this division this year has just absolutely impressed me, particularly the very top team. West Mesa Mustangs under Coach Montano are absolutely, hands down, my opinion, the best team in the state. No questions asked. And if you were also a betting man, you could say this would be a nationally challenging team that could compete in Canton and do well. 32-8 victory over Sioux Cleveland. Coach Landry last week thought that might be a little closer game. West Mesa, again, dominating. You know, you look at also the number 2 team in La Cueva, champions 5 of the last 6 years. You could go on and on about Coach Cherry and his squad. Under the lights last week, Volcano Vista North on the agenda, 32-24 victory. Coach Cherry kind of interesting. Started off slow, couple losses, bad ones. Injury-riddled team, getting healthy now, getting back into a groove now, have won 3 straight. And feel pretty good about themselves. You look at the rest of the schedule and you can kind of think that they're going to run the table, finish out 6-2. That number 3 slot is the most interesting again. I think that's where kind of the battles are kind of won and lost when you think about the Super Bowl championships. Coach Perry, 44-12 victory over Volcano Vista East last week. A disappointing loss 2 weeks ago to Coach Sherry, 8-6, and really a coach that's been to the top of the mountain but never to the peak. Has taken his team through playoff win after playoff win, but never quite got himself into the Super Bowl. And I know he's got a chip on his shoulder. He wants an opportunity to play West Mesa. Hasn't got that yet. Hopefully he'll get his shot in the playoffs. And then you've got some teams on the outside. Coach Orono and Atrisco come in and beat El Dorado 18-14 in what some would consider to be an upset victory. That's one of those teams on the outside looking in. Coach Olivas with El Dorado, quick start. A rough couple of weeks with some really, really tough losses have kind of set them back off of the top 3. But I will tell you, this division has not spoken yet. Aside from West Mesa at the very top, cream of the crop, there's a bunch of teams below that have an opportunity to really show what they are about. So as we enter week 6, our top 3, West Mesa Mustangs, La Cueva Bears, and Rio Rancho East Rams. Folks, that'll do it for our top 3 show this week. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Some great games this weekend. A lot of movement in the ranking, hopefully. And I look forward to seeing how this thing shakes out. Exciting times in New Mexico Young American Football League. We'll catch up next week. Thank you.